Hi, Mom. 24th, 2023. North Montpelier. The pond is still not frozen over. And we don't have much cold weather. I guess tonight might get a little cold, but little update here on the apartment house. We have gotten all the rotten beams removed. Here we've got blankets down, and you can see I've got that white rigid insulation underneath the blankets, so I'm keeping the ground from freezing. So hopefully, even though it's January, I can get these porch floors poured sometime soon. Welcome to the disaster. It's not that bad, but so went through and removed all the 8x8 beams and replaced it with pressure treated, and the concrete will pour out underneath that pressure treated out to that white insulation that I have in place on the outside of the building, which I'll show you real quick. Makes sense, so you can see it right here. And that will hold the concrete in underneath the wall of the house. And so yay, that was actually a very, very big deal getting that done, and it's easier to see over here. I went through and cut off all the studs on the top of the beam where it didn't just fall out. A lot of it was nasty. So then I just spray foamed back up against the rigid foam that got sprayed in a bunch of years ago. I was able to straighten out this section of wall right here where the door was way out. That door was a disaster. Now it actually opens and closes nicely. I probably will get a different door though, because it's very old and not very energy efficient. Those are piles of the floor joists that actually came out of this end of the building. They ran through here when that was crawl space. You see all my plumbing supplies, getting ready to do the under slab plumbing for the first floor bathroom, which is going to be in this area right here. But right now I've had to install a couple lolly columns now that I've decided on the bathroom layout. So lolly column being this gray post here that is a metal pipe that is then filled with concrete. So very, very strong post. You can see I've got one up on the bench here, and I've had to adjust it. I needed to move the thing, and I got to take a little bit off of it. So I cut that with the grinding wheel, and then I'll chip that off with a hammer. You can see the concrete inside this steel tube. I don't know if I can get a real good close up. It's not a very thick, let's see, there, shade that, maybe focus. It's not very thick steel, but with that concrete in there, it holds up a lot of weight. And then the other thing, in order to put it in, I have this yellow jack post, and it's a pretty handy contraption. Those are two hydraulic cylinders here that you can see are sitting on the steel of the post, and then they go up and they push on this pin that goes through this inner steel pipe that moves up and down, and that is the same as this part of the pipe. And I will show you how it works because it's very cool. I can, with my hydraulic pump, I come down here and I pump on this, and it pushes those cylinders up. And I don't know if you could hear the creak, but there we go. I don't want to go any more than that anyway. I needed to pick it up a little bit to get that new post in. But what's cool is those are now holding that pipe up. With this setup, I can pull this pin and I let that sleeve drop, and that sleeve is free to swivel around that pipe, which is the one that this pin is pushing on. So I find the closest hole in there, slide my pin through, put my safety clip back on, and then there is this big sleeve right here that has these huge threads, these mechanical threads, and that rotates back and forth. So now I can spin this thing up tight to that collar. That's about as tight as I can get it. And now I can actually release the hydraulics. And what I just put up there with that collar is going to hold that thing in place. See, now the cylinders are dropping right away, and it's being held by this. So what's cool about this is you could keep jacking. You can run this pin till it bottoms out here, and then you set this sleeve, and then you can pull this pin out, put it in the next hole, and keep on jacking. It's a very cool tool. So I'm about to take that lolly column and I'll put it in here on these cinder blocks up to that beam. And I've determined the layout of my walls right now, and I needed to do that before the post could be put inside the wall. So I will actually frame around that post that's going to go in and that post there. It's part of the bathroom wall. It'll disappear behind the sheetrock. Never know it's there, but you can see this beam right here runs from one side of the house all the way to the other side of the house, and then the floor joists are actually running parallel with the eave walls, so the weight of that floor system is on this beam, so it's got to have some intermediate support. There will be walls framed under it, but they're not going to get framed up till the floor is poured. So I wanted to get some they're kind of temporary posts, because then the walls would actually hold the building up. I guess if the posts ever failed, which they won't unless the block sunk a little bit. But that's where it's at, and once these posts are in, I'll be able to then use my collection of plumbing parts and get the underslab plumbing in. I'll check back in with that. Bye.